Okay, so last time I think we already covered the question 1 until 39. So which is question 39 is talk about the form of country around the world, that we have three category: unitary, federation, and confederation. Which is you also need to provide the futures to because you need to discuss the form of country of the around the world together with the example of the country who are formed in terms of the unitary, federation, and confederation. And in short, I can say that the most of the country around the world are in terms of the unitary, and there is a certain number they are formed in terms of federation, and a very rare they are in terms of the confederation. Okay, so question 40, judicial system. So you need to provide the judicial system. We talk about the judicial system, not judiciary branch, but judicial system, the system of judicial practice in Malaysia. So which is in Malaysia, we are practice unified judicial system, which is the court that take cognizance of the both federal and state law. Means that it is under the court. And then we have a two different type of judicial system. We have a federal court, which is federal law, which is relate with the civil court, and then Sharia law, which is relate with the state law, which is relate with the Sharia court. So at the state related with the, this is on the Sharia, not on the civil. And this is the area of the jurisdiction under the purview of the court. So interpret constitution, interpret law, proclaim, and declare. So this is the answer for the question 40. Okay, 41, we talk about the state administrative system. So which is you need to provide the administrative system at the state. So administrative system, which is in the state, we have a geographical basis administration, where the administration being divided into district, mukim, and kampung. So therefore, in simple to understand, you need to understand by you look into your home address. So you provide home address. The home address, this is represent the administrative system. You have the number of house or the lane or the road, and then where you come from, kampung, from which kampung, the lowest one, and then the mukim, the second lowest, and the district. So after district, it is go to the state. So that is the initiative. If you provide, because I thought that the answer you give them secretary office and so on and so forth. This is not the administrative system. So which is, there is the departmental at the state. So departmental at the state. So therefore we are not talking about the district office or penghulu office. That is the departmental. Okay, and then there is the administrative machinery. the machinery, which is who are running or providing the service. This is we have the departmental, which is we have the top is the ESCOs, which is uh, uh, um, ESCOs formulate the policy and so on, and then state department. And then department at the state, we have a two department. The first one is state department, and the branch of the federal department. So each of the state, so they have the branch for the department branch for the federal. Okay, 43, this is the public service, which is the public service in Malaysia comprised of the federal public service and state public service and joint public service. So federal mostly is federal public service lah, which is come from the armed force, judicial, federal. But you need to understand some of the service are not considered as a public service. For example, administrative posts, like minister, minister of education, minister of whatever. That is the administrative post. So we have a prime minister, we have a minister of finance, minister of education, and so on. They are not considered as public service. Similar to the speaker, judge for high court and federal court, but a session court and a magistrate court, this is a public service. Members of commission, so we have members, and also diplomatic post like ambassador. So who become the ambassador for other for Malaysia ambassador to other countries. So they are not part of the public service. Okay, so 44. This is about the money that withdrawn from the consolidated fund. So how to withdraw the money, or the purpose of the money, or the way the money can withdraw. So we have Article 104, which is you need to provide, there is a different way to withdraw using a different clause, which is, if you look from the clause 2, they are categorized into two. Charge, which is not subject to the authorized, while supply and contingency, Article 102, they are subject to authorized. Okay, and then 45, cabinet minister. So this is the entity or institution who exercise the power of the executive branch. What are the responsibility of the cabinet minister? Is set up government policy, issue directive, monitor administrative machinery, and also advisory board to the YDPE. Okay, and then this is the next National Council, 46 National Council, so which is the body that is set up or established at the national level under the requirement of the Constitution. So you need to stress on the requirement on the Constitution. So the establishment are based on the Constitution, not based on the other act. So therefore, you can understand the difference between national council and other council that also carry the name of the national. Okay. 47, this is accounting officer and controlling officer. I think also based on the answer given by the respective uh, student, not so right, especially on the controlling officer, which is controlling officer is the main officer. It is not the accounting officer. This is a main officer. Normally depend on the organization. Like if let's say for the university, public university, the controlling officer is the VC, while accounting officer is referred to the mostly head by the treasurer, bendahari. There is a difference between that. Okay, 48. So that is 48 is we talk about the fund, which is referred to the Article 97. That is the requirement to establish the consolidated fund, which is what are the consolidated fund? This is the government account in which all government revenue and expenditure are paid. So that is the account of the federal government or of the state government. And then the consolidated fund need to be separately managed into three different consolidated account under the section 7. So you need to state both requirement on the fund that need to be managed by the government. Okay, so question 49. So I think I already showed to you previously on the assignment format answer, which is three functions of the legislative: representation, lawmaking, and oversight. So you need to understand the function and also the power. If we talk about the financial aspect, the power for the parliament are either to reject or to accept the budget proposed by the government on the supply. But the function and responsibility is more than that. Okay, so 50, this is similar with the question 32, which is I already highlight earlier on the redundant question. And 51, so the question talk about the responsibility of the federal government towards state government. So which is among the responsibility as stated in the FC. Why they need to state it in the FC? Because it is to avoid the clash between the state and federal, because under the federation, state also have a power, federal also have a power. So this is not like in the unitary. So therefore, to make it smooth and then harmonize, the FC stated clearly on the matters. Among the responsibility are under the 109. So provide grant. So grant, which is grant, this is the assistance to the government, to the state government. And then required to establish an FC, which is to resolve the dispute between federal and state in terms of the implementation and operation, or also in terms of the policy. And then provide loan to the state, which is under the 111. You can see that the state have no power to make a loan except with the approval of the federal. So therefore, normally the state will borrow from the federal. And if the federal have no fund, the federal will borrow from the outsiders. And also this is another responsibility is to assist. Let's say some state have a problem in terms of the cash flow. So cash flow problem. So the federal normally given the advance. So there is part of that. Therefore, it is not so good in terms of the harmonization. The federal penalize the state, for example. Okay, and then 52, this is the objective of the government governance, which is to enhance the people confidence. That is the main thing of that matters. So through government governance, through a good governance, it is more probably to enhance the people confidence, because if the people confident toward the government ability in terms of the running the country, it will be smooth and then easy to handle. But if the people do not confidence, so you can see that. So the people will not follow what have been. They are against the government, and then all the policy of the government will not success. Okay, and second is to maintaining accountability. So this is good because through maintain accountability, it will show that. Therefore, you can see that once the minister um, um, offense the SOP, they need to also be penalized. They need to show that to the people on their accountability. Okay, and then this is the last question on the provision of the FC on the SOP between federal and state. So you should provide the SOP, means that how this being implemented on that matters. Why you refer to the federal constitution article. So which is, if you look from the article 99.1, for example, so FC require the state establish their own consolidated fund, not together with the federal. Federal needs to establish for their own. So this is example of the separation of power. So the power to establish the consolidated fund rest to the particular state for the state and for the federal for federal. Similar to the if you look on the article 109, so grant to the state government the beside the responsibility, so means that the state government can use the money from the federal for their own. They have their own policy on that. Because let's say a good example, by you looking on the case Terengganu versus federal government on royalty. So after a new government formed in 1999 election for state Terengganu, the federal government do not provide royalty to the Terengganu state. So why? Because they feel that maybe the Terengganu state can use that money for their own policy. So that is example of that, because once the money from the grant enter to the account of the consolidated state, so it's up to the state government to use for the purpose of the spending. Okay, so with that, I think that's all for the individual assignment, and I hope you can get the point, the way how to tackle the question, how to answer the question based on the assignment mode and also based on the examination mode. Okay, so now let we go to the lecture today. We will continue on the topic for the budget. Last time we already talked about the budget. So the budget component, which is comprised of the revenue and expenditure. So revenue component for federal government, we can classify into four different categories. This is what I say, that this is the budget classification, because now we are talk about the budget. So not we talk about the sources of revenue, but this is the revenue for the federal government can be classified into four different component. So tax, tax revenue, non-tax, non-tax revenue, non-revenue received, and revenue from federal territories. Okay, so what are tax revenue? So by definition, this income received from different tax and other duties. So means that tax revenue, they are not just refer to the tax, but also the duties. So the duties, which is, this is the revenue that are based on the law. Based on the law, the impost of the revenue are based on the law. So based on the law passed by the legislative. And then we can classify into direct tax and indirect tax. So I give you an example for the tax that belong to the federal government, the tax that belong to the state government, and that belong to the local government. So this is all the example of the revenue from tax by a different level of the government. Okay, and then indirect tax. So indirect tax is in terms of the normally duties for the federal government and entertainment. Entertainment, land premium, that is for the state government. So therefore, if we talk about the import, export, and so on, so the government get from there, from the duties. So therefore, you can see that the government provide the facilities, invite the international company to operate in Malaysia. So after that, they are export their product to overseas. So we can see that what the government get from there, because the government spend a lot of money to develop. So the government collect from this particular company in terms of the duties. Okay, non-tax revenue. So this is the revenue which is collected based on the product or service. So based on the product or service. In terms of the license, permit. So regardless lah what kind of permit, let's say for example football permit or and so on. So all the permit, taxi permit. So that is the permit that is go to the federal, but for the state like for example, entertainment, registration. So this is example for the state. For the local government, charge and penalty. When you park your car in the local government area, and then you do not pay the fees of that, you will be uh, charged, or you will be fined on that matters. So that is the income for the local government, similar to the public university. When you park your motor car in the space for the lecturer, for example, and then the guard come and then give you a summon, and then you need to pay. That is the penalty. Okay, and then estimate revenue. We continue. The third one is non-revenue received. So this is actually not as revenue, but part of the revenue, but it not generate a new one. It's come from the refund. So refund of expenditure, for example, um, when the allocation given to the particular agency or department, and then end of the period, the allocation is not um, spending. So they are not spent, or they have a balance for that matters. The balance uh, will be not carry forward because it will lapse for the particular year. So to show the lapse, so the balance of the allocation need to be refunded back to the treasury. That is the meaning of the refund of expenditure. And revenue from federal territories, because federal territories is as one area like a state. So, but they are directly under the federal, therefore they need to account one specific sources of revenue. That is the purpose of that is that can be used for the federal territory, for the spending in the area of the federal territory. Okay, so we go to the second component, which is expenditure. So expenditure will be divided into two: operating and development expenditure. And then operating expenditure are divided into charge and supply based on the Article 98 and Article 100. One for the development come from the two: direct development and then from loan, which is the development expenditure is direct, um, come from the government allocation, or in many cases, most of the case, it come from the loan. So the government can make loan. Therefore, in our country right now, we have around 1 trillion of the debt that need to be uh, settled. Okay, so first we need to understand what are the meaning of the estimate expenditure, which is anticipate expenditure that will be spent by the government. Because we are talk about the budget, budget is only the now at the level of the planning. So therefore, we are anticipate. So, which is divided into operational and development. What are the different to easily understand the difference between operation and development? So, operation by nature is recurrent, one-off, short-term, and repeated. So, that is the operation. Uh, so, while for the development, this is not repeated and long term by the nature. So if you understand from that matters, easy for you to determine the difference between O, E, and DE. Okay, so operating expenditure, this is we call also maintenance expenditure. So means that how to maintain, how to operate. This is talk about the open of the department. So minister daily operation. So the government agency which is established by the government, upon establishment, so we need to be operate. So if without operation, there is no service provided because it beat the purpose of the establishment of that. Okay, and then operation can be divided into two: charge and supply. So charge and supply. So what are charge? Obligatory payment under the law. Obligatory payment under the law means that this is the compulsory payment. Payment that are compulsory. Example, grant to the state. For federal, grant to the state. Grant to the state is a compulsory because they fall under the Article 109. The federal need to provide grant to the state. Today is an example of the charge expenditure. And then that expenditure do not subject to the approval because they are under the law directly. Or in many cases, there is the government, the court order. The court order the government to pay for the third party, for example, like a case last time case when the um, government the court ordered the government to pay the compensation to the five judges that been set by the Dr. Mahdi time in the case of the Tun Sadek Abbas last time. So they are need to be paid for that matters. Okay, and the supply expenditure. So this is the expenditure um, um, control under the Supply Act. So therefore, those who have the rules and regulation, you open your rules and regulation in the last page after page 55. So you can see that that is purposely I provide 2020 Supply Act. And then you can see at the end, purpose B1 until B63, and then the name of the ministry, department or ministry, and the amount. So that is the supply expenditure. So therefore, they are controlled under the Supply Act, which is this is subject to the appropriation. So therefore, it is subject to the approval by the legislative. So because this is depend on the appropriation, what kind of the spending that ministry want to. So therefore, they are subject to the scrutinized by the legislative. Okay, and then development expenditure, which is cost incurred for develop project and program. So that is including economic, social, education, and so on. So not means that just for the economic, but development for the various aspect. Okay, so this is the capital and non-recurrent expenditure. And for our purpose, development expenditure, we do not go further. We just provide you in the surface because the nature of the development is very, very problematic and difficult for us to talk about because it is what we say that long term by nature. So how can you predict because it depends on the prediction and so on. Okay, and then development expenditure come to category direct and on loan. which is allocation channel directly as entirely expenditure by the federal government. So this is channel directly. That is when to make it you understand better when you we discuss in the topic accounting. Next topic you can see that what means of the directly channel, and then on the loan expenditure, there is also we can look from the diagram. But if you want to know, for those who have a second textbook, Public Sector Financial Accounting and Reporting, you look on the page 5. So you look on the page 5 diagram, you can see on the development expenditure and development fund, that is, you can see that what we say about the direct and the loan. So if direct, the name is the contribution, is the loan, is the name is the transfer. Okay, so this is for you to make it understand the how to differentiate between OE and DE by you look into the nature. Okay, so now we go to the next part, which is how can we detail out the expenditure classification as required by the section 15 of the FPA and also article 99 FC. So it comes from there. Article 99, preparing of the estimate. Section 15, estimate must be detailed out. And then for the detail out, of course, it relates with the expenditure and revenue because there is the component in the budget, in the estimate. So we want to know how to classify. So there is why we need to refer to the FTC 11/2013. So as we discussed before in the previous topic on the legal, so we can see that for a day-to-day, guidelines are provided through the circulars. So through the circulars. So this is for the day-to-day because this is for the preparation of the budget. So if we want to prepare the budget, so we are not just left budget, for example, revenue. Revenue, we classify into four, tax revenue, non-tax revenue, and debt. And then similar to the expenditure, classify as the um, um, operation, supply, charge, and development. But there is a total. So how to get the total? So budget need to be prepared detailed because section 15 required to be detailed. So therefore, how detail of that, you need to refer to the FTC 11/2013. So this FTC, please go to the search engine, write this one FTC 11/2013 on the um, code of account, so you can see, and then it is around 80 or 85 pages of that matters. So that is we call the object, object of revenue, object of expenditure. So which is from there, we need to understand revenue classify into four categories and expenditure classify into five categories. So, and then the object of the revenue and expenditure being classified into 4 different level, namely general object, standard object, group detail object, and detail object. So detail object is the lowest one. Means that once we prepare the budget, we are not just prepare the brief budget, which is comprised of the total revenue, total expenditure, and then get the difference between there. No, because it is again to the section 15 and also the FTC. So we need to follow this, means that all the revenue and expenditure need to be detailed out until detail object. But if you look on the rules and regulation, as I said there on the example in the last page, there is, we talk about the total because this is the law. This is not the budget. This is the law, Supply Act. So therefore, there is a Supply Act. Act is not give detail, but budget must be detailed. So before come to this general like Supply Act, so the Parliament need to be debate and follow all the process that we already talked in the topic previous. Okay, so this is the how to differentiate between the object. So I give a simple example here. You can see that we take 10,000. 10,000 name of the object emolument. So from where I get, this is I get from the FTC 1/1/2013. So no, I'm create for myself. This is for the standardized name and the code. Okay, so therefore I requires you to get this because you can understand. If not, you will trouble. So 10,000 emolument, this is we call the general object. So let's say in the tutorial, I requires to prepare the budget based on the standard object. So you know standard object, how detailed that budget. So means that if standard object at the second brief. So this is brief, this is second brief, and this is a more detailed, and this is a detail. So at the same object, 11, 1, 101, they are fall under 11,100, fall under the 11,000, fall under 10,000. Okay. So this is for the 70,000. Similar, I give you example on the non-tax revenue. So we have a rental for land, and rental of land for agriculture. Okay, so this is the code and the purpose I provide. Yani this matter, I think you can read directly from the note, and then you refer to the 1/1/2013. Okay, so we go on the budget timeline. In the textbook, I'm write budgeting process, but actually this is not the budgeting process. This is the budget timeline. So because we are talk about the timeline, January what we have been done, March what we have been done, July what we have been done, and so on. So this is the timeline of the budget, and then you can see that the budget starting with the January. Um, so therefore, budget is comprised over 2 years. In the um, preceding years, that is we call the budget planning. So it's starting with the circulars provided by the treasury to all the agency until the budget being approved and then the general warrant being issued. So starting for the following year, on the 1st January following year, there is come with the budget implementation and budget control. So this is in the budget planning because this still in the planning. We are not implement yet. So the budget, and then you can see, therefore, budget taken 2 years time period. Let's say, for example, we talk about the budget 2022. 2022 is next year. But January here refer to the January 2021. January of this year. Starting of the January this year, budget 2022 being start planning, which is through the treasury provide the circulars, and then at the departmental and agency need to be prepared and so on. Until you can see now we are in the November, still in the November, and then now budget 2022 is in the debate process at the parliament, because now it's still on the November, still in the HOR, no HOS. So therefore, you can see those who are interested, you can enter the parliament website. You can see that the parliament sitting right now is for the debate of the budget 2022. Because last time being tabled by the finance minister in the early November. Okay, so this is similar in the mapping. Okay, so this also I think straightforward for you to read directly to understand the budget timeline. So this is the agency involved. You can see that back to the what we have been previously discussed about the um, responsibility and function of the central and operating agency. So on the budget, you can see that Treasury, EPU, ICU, and PSD are involved directly. That is on the central agency because why? For example, PSD, they are provide the data and requirement about the public service. So because here, one of the main item in the budget on the expenditure is on the emolument. So emolument is the payment goes to pay the salary, allowance, and so on. So we need to know the capacity of the manpower. So the data of the manpower are provided by the public service department. So implementation coordination unit, this is normally relate with the these two relate with the budget implementation because in the most program it will involve several agency. So how to coordinate? We need to have one center. So therefore, it falls to the central agency, namely ICU. Okay, operating agency, of course, it will involve all the agency, operating agency in terms of the ministries, department, and statutory bodies. And then you can see here, we are not included in the companies because company do not receive the budget from the government. Okay, so this is the budget process actually on the operating budget. As I said that we more focus on the operating instead of the uh, um, development. So on the operating budget, the process start with can be classified into three: budget formulation, budget approval, budget execution. Uh, So this is the phase budget formulation where that fall under the budget planning. So which is formulate the budget plan in a process that involves several steps of negotiation among the government agency. So this is in the formulation of the budget, and then approval. Approval. This is at the two stage of approval. Approval by the executive and approval by the legislative. So that is the approval, and then execution. This is we call the implementation. This is the budget implementation and control. Control that is very important in the execution phase, because we need to ensure that collection of tax or revenue be made accordingly. That is related to the efficiency of that. And then the spending of the money spending need to be based on the amount approved and stated purpose. Because therefore, budget need to be detailed. Let's say amount approved for the salary, 3 million. So 3 million need to be spent for the salary. We can channel for the other purpose. Okay, and then the last in the budget theory, we talk about the budgeting system. So budgeting system that is in the budget theory. We need to understand about the system. Under the system, there is we feel several system that have been used, namely we are grouped into two: incremental, non-performance based, and performance based budget. Okay. So in simple, I go direct to the budget system practice in Malaysia. Um, this is what have been when we talk about the evolution or development of the budgeting system. So Malaysian have experience on the 5 different system in preparing the budget. So starting with the line item budget until the zero-based budget 2019, but right now I think still back to the OBB, outcome-based budget. Okay, so how to know this matter? This is the budgeting on the development of that matters. I think you can read directly this matter because it is more straightforward on that matters. This is all on the development reason why we change from one to another. Okay, so to understand the budgeting system, you look on the characteristic. So on the characteristic. So which is the characteristic of a LIBS is simple. For example, input focus, do not relate with the output and performance and so on. So that is the LIBS. On the PSB, so PSB, they are required to prepare a very thoroughly, which is if you look from there, you can understand how to set the objective. This is for those who are want to do the uh, group project assignment proposal, because on the um, after introduction objective, how to set the objective. So because when I check your proposal, it is very sad because you don't know how to set the objective, how to write the objective, and then later on you will affect your whole project. So this is the component of the PPBS that comprise, because the name of PPBS, program and performance. So this is the program, the performance, and then performance indicator, which is also we have a group project assignment title on the KPI, one of the indicators, and then evaluation. So this is the way how to develop indicator under the PPBS. Okay, and then the third system practice in Malaysia, based on time, based on time, which is we practice the MBS, modified budgeting system. So modified budgeting system. So under the MBS, you can see that they have the element on MBS. There are 5 different elements, which is we have a budget ceiling, program agreement, um, exception report, and so on. Okay, and then this is the 2013 to 2018, and then continue on the 2021 onward. So break 2019, 2020, during the Pakatan Harapan League government, they changed to the ZBB. So this is the what we can say that the latest, and the call integrated approach, which is here relate with the KPIs actually. KPIs uh, um, uh, used to complement with the OBB. So complement with the OBB, because they are talk about the measure result achieved on that matters, and emphasis on the expenditure that give value for money. Okay, so in this system, we have the input, output, process, outcome, and then impact methods. So this is all the term that you need to be familiar with. Uh, so you need to be familiar with what mean of the input, what mean of the output, and then if you are able to find out the example of that, so it is more much better for you. Okay, and then this is the principle and characteristic. So benefit and limitation. Okay, and then this is the last system, but apply in the 2 years only, 2019, 2020, ZBB. ZBB is not a new around the world. This is very old, 1960s, being implemented in the US. But in Malaysia, we are practice this system 2019, 2019, 2020. A new in Malaysia, but around the world, this is the old one. This is during the Carter era in US. Okay, so and the last form, this we can look on the what are the effect of the budgetary system and uh, toward economy. So therefore, the selection of the system is important actually in terms of the determination of the amount that been allocated. So not in terms of the item ready. We talk in through the um, or we call it object is ready determined through the circulars, but determining of the amount, how much the amount will allocate to this particular object. So this is the performance of LIBS on economy, performance of the PPBS on economy, performance of MBS on economy, OBB on economy, and ZBB on economy. That I already summarized of that matters. But for those who want to know further, you can read some of the references that are given for you to find out how and the way of the budgetary system we listed here give effect to the economy of the country. Okay, so and that is the conclusion, uh, and that's all for the topic budget um, theory.